morning. Welcome to BRK-Sec 1015. Is VPN really dead and replaced by ZTNA? Let's find out. So we have this WebEx app. You are already part of the group there. I'm going to be monitoring this group for the rest of the week. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it out there. If you put it after 6, maybe I'll have a couple of beers on me, so I'll be more honest. You'll get a more honest answer. And this is what we're going to cover today, right? What is ZTNA? What are the key differences between ZTNA and VPN and the common objections from VPNs? Then we're going to go through why we really need ZTNA and what is this new concept of universal ZTNA. Like if we didn't have enough concepts around zero trust, we have a new one, universal ZTNA. Then we're going to cover the flavor of ZTNA in Cisco, which is called Secure Access, Cisco Secure Access, and what's going to be a flexible journey to ZTNA with Cisco. So this is me. I'm Gustavo Medina, but you see I scratched the first part of my name. I really go by Tavo. Everybody calls me Tavo. I'm a technical solutions architect covering the whole security portfolio in the global sales security organization. I'm a Costa Rican, but I'm based out of Mexico. I've been living in Mexico for about 10 years. I started in Cisco back in 2009 in Cisco TAC. And funny enough, I started in the VPN team back then. So that's why I'm so passionate. Even though I covered the whole portfolio, I'm passionate about VPN technologies and now ZTNA. I'm also a football fan, which would be soccer for most of you. Actually, this is me and my friend at the World Cup supporting our Costa Rican team. And I try to keep this presentation updated with new features and stuff. Last year, I got this news. I had the announcement of my first daughter, and this is how my wife gave me the news. So the most important update of the whole presentation is this. Look who came. Thank you, thank you. So on Sunday, we have Father's Day, so we're going to go. There's the World Cup, the Club World Cup happening here in the US. So of course, we're going to celebrate my first Father's Day in Pasadena, watching Paris Saint-Germain against Atletico de Madrid. So but I'm excited about it. And maybe we're going to renew this picture with her instead of my furry friend. Okay. So this is what Gartner says about ZTNA, right? ZTNA solutions are rapidly replacing remote access VPNs for application access, okay? And organizations identify VPN replacement as their primary motivation for evaluating ZTNA offerings, but they find that the justification comes from risk reduction and not from any cost savings. So ZTNA solutions are not cheaper than VPN. Probably you know about this. So we'll see what we really need to do to implement ZTNA correctly so it makes sense for the business, right? Not just buy a ZTNA solution for marketing when it's really just doing the same thing as a traditional VPN. Okay. So let's start with this Slido, if you can help me out to participate and make the session a little bit more dynamic. I have a book for the winner at the end on this Slido. So how many Cisco Lives have you attended? Let me see why it's not working. Oh, so we don't have the Slido up in here. Huh, that's a bummer. Let me see. We can skip that. So how many Cisco Lives have you guys attended? I'm going to do this the old way. 4? Who's the first time at this Cisco Live? Oh, many. So I'm honored that this is your first breakout session in Cisco Live. Hope it's very good use of your time. So the reason I'm asking this is because the name of the session actually means something, right? So this is BRK-Sec 1015. That's a breakout in security. And 1015, it starts with number 1. So that's intro-level session. Like we don't have time to cover. We only have 1 hour. So we don't have time to cover, like go really deep into the features. And we have sessions that start with 2 and sessions that start with 3. So don't go into a session that starts with 3 hoping to get some very basic stuff because they don't have time to cover that. In the same way, this is a session one, number one, so we don't have time to go very deep into some of the features and the architecture. But we have these journeys that I'm putting here as a reference, and you get this presentation. So with this journey, if you follow this SSE journey, by the end of the week, you can go like from 0 to hero, all right? So after this one, you have a couple of options. You have that IBOSEC, that's an interactive breakout. So you get to, those ones are not recorded, and you get to interact more with the speaker, okay? And you have, for example, BRKSEC 3027. That's Vinny Parla's session. That goes really, really deep into how these protocols are working on our solution of secure access. So if you're interested on that one, I would recommend it. We also have BRKSEC 2885 from John Rouser. He's in the, one of the owners of the product, and he goes into the architecture in the cloud and how the redundancy works and the resiliency. So if you want to go to that one, that's a good one too. So what is ZTNA? These are the first, or the four main use cases that Gartner defined back then, right? Internal workforce remote access, that is, well, basically your employees connecting to your applications from anywhere, and basically the same use case as a VPN, right? With new features and functionalities, but the use case was that one. Then we also have privileged remote access. That is, well, some VIP users, some specific users accessing other applications that nobody else should have access to, right? And you should be able to differentiate between the two. But you also have the third use case where you have contractors, where you don't manage their endpoints and bring your own device if you wanted to allow access to your applications from unmanaged devices, okay? And we had a last one, which is on-prem access. So since then, Gartner defined that a ZTNA solution should provide the same level of granularity, access, posture checks, whether you are on-prem or remote, right? So that's one of the concepts of zero trust as well. What you'll see is that most of the vendors that grew up in ZTNA, they forgot about this fourth use case. They focused on the first three, and now they are starting to work on that fourth use case. And that's the new concept that I talked about, that universal ZTNA. That's mainly that fourth use case, on-prem. But now we have a new concept of universal ZTNA when this was defined since the beginning, okay? So this table is the one that I worked on to compare VPN versus ZTNA, right? And we can discuss about user experience, access scope, posture checks, connection architecture, and the trust model. So if we talk about user experience, VPN, we all know, right? It requires a VPN software. And ZTNA, some people had the belief that it was better user experience for the end users, so they didn't require a client software, right? They would just go to the browser and access their applications like if they were on-prem on their Wi-Fi. What you'll see is that actually all of the modern ZTNA solutions, to provide these advanced functionalities in posture checks and whatnot, well, you still require a client software. So that's why I put a mark in there. We'll get back to that one. Okay? Now, access scope. Traditionally, VPNs, once you connect, you get access to the full network. And this is one of the objections or the justifications of people when moving away from VPN to ZTNA, that once you connect, you have access to everything. That's what they say, right? Of course, that's a very basic VPN, because with a VPN, you can do VPN filters, you can do even modern segmentation like secure group taggings, but you need to tune it, right? You need to tweak it for it to work that way. On ZTNA solutions, it's the other way around, right? You get access to specific application, but what I see is that many customers that are on a ZTNA solution, they don't have the identity access management ready yet to see, like, this group of users should access these specific applications, and they end up doing like any-to-any, right? If you don't have the right identity solved yet, and you go to a ZTNA solution, you do something like, hey, yeah, this group of users connect to maybe a wildcard, right? asterisk that domain name.com. So that's like a VPN. So you're paying, we saw that ZTNA solutions are not cheap, so you're paying a lot of money for just like a fancy VPN, okay? But that's true. Like, even if you have very well-worked segmentation on a VPN, you are still doing network access control. With ZTNA, you do it at the application layer, right? You have the ability at least, but you need to also solve the identity management. Then the posture checks, that's also true. On VPNs, when you connect, like you check the posture once. You check if it has the updated antivirus, if it has a firewall running, if it has a registry check. You check if it is enrolled with your MDM. And once that is passed, you are connected, right? By default, you just check it once. You can also do some configuration, like, for example, in ICE, and do periodic reevaluation of the posture. But I'm talking in general here. That's not always the case. Like, you check the posture once, and that's it. With ZTNA solutions, again, in general, you get to check posture on every application access, or at least periodically, but very short in time. Like, every 5 minutes, you are checking posture. And if the posture changes, then you change the access, and you start blocking access to the applications. Okay? And then the connection architecture, this is a big one. On VPNs, well, you all know, right? You hit connect on your VPN client, and you connect to the concentrator, to the headend. And at that point, like, you are tied to that headend. You cannot connect to another VPN headend at the same time, right? So that's a challenge, because if the workloads are not all living on that same location where that concentrator is, then that's inefficient routing, right? So maybe you want to provide access to a workload in a different data center, so you need to do like a U-turn, connect to this concentrator, go all the way to the other data center. Or if these are working, these workloads are in the cloud, it might not be very efficient, okay? On ZTNA, on the other side, like, the client can connect to different headends depending on the application. So that's irrelevant for the ZTNA client. Or even something that is very nice is that if you have some applications that are not supported with these newer protocols of ZTNA, you can connect, like, you can have the ZTNA client and a VPN client as well, and both active at the same time. That was not possible with VPNs traditionally. Like, you could also have many problems just by having installed VPN clients from different vendors, right? They will definitely not work at the same time, and in most of the cases, even having them installed on the same host would cause problems, okay? So that's an advantage. Now, back to that mark that I put right there, you don't need a client. Who remembers this screenshot of WebVPN? You do? So that was WebVPN clientless. So before ZTNA was even a concept, we had this in ASA since ASA 7.1. That's ASA code, not FTD 7.1, which doesn't sound like a long time ago. 7.1 ASA, so that was long, long time ago. And we had this clientless. Who remember which product besides ASA supported clientless? Oh, yeah, VPN concentrator. That's right. So that's very old. I think that was one of my first cases when I joined the VPN team. And we had clientless back then. Okay? Yeah, yeah, that one, Altiga one. So that's a good history lesson. We had the Altiga concentrator, VPN 3K concentrator, and the PICs, and they merged together, and the ASA was born. After that, the ASA plus SourceFire, FTD was born. So these are the VPN common objections, right? VPNs provide a bad user experience. You hear this all the time, right? That's debatable, but yeah, many VPNs that are not well implemented, like, they have a lot of frictions with the end users. Like, you have to, you don't know when you need to connect. Maybe the users try to access an application. They forgot they are not connected on VPN. They hit connect, then they need to provide two-factor authentication with their token, with the physical token. So I get that. Or if it is not well, the architecture is not well implemented, it's very slow for the users. So they are used to navigate with a high-speed connection on their house. They need to connect to the VPN. All of a sudden, they're doing tunnel all, and the experience for the user is bad, right? It's terrible, especially if something happens like the pandemic, and you send many users back to their home, and the load increases, and the bottleneck is bigger. So yeah, you get that objection all the time. The other one, we already kind of talked about it, is that VPN assumes that anyone passing the network perimeter can be trusted, okay? You can tweak it, but again, that's an objection that we see all the time. ZTNA takes the opposite approach by not trusting any user or device until proven otherwise. I'll give you that, yeah, that's true. And ZTNA extends the zero trust model beyond the network. Again, this is the UZTNA concept that we're talking about, that with VPNs, you have these controls for your remote users, and you provide visibility, maybe micro-segmentation to access some applications. But once they move to the campus, it's a little bit different, the experience, right? You can have the same level of controls, but not on the same solution, right? You can do NAC or firewall controls, wherever you want, but nobody I've seen a couple of cases, but that's not common, to have on-prem users connecting to a VPN to access the applications. That's not common. With ZTNA, that's what they're talking about. Like, you have one solution, and either if you connect remotely or if you connect on-prem, you get the same exact controls. Okay? And ZTNA reduces the attack surface by hiding applications from the internet. Yes, but you can also do that from a VPN. So let's take a look at this VPN experience that I happen to have on Cisco, like everybody had. Okay? So this is a secure client demo. Like everybody in Cisco has the secure client installed. Maybe you know as AnyConnect. They changed the name. I don't know why. But I connect here to the cluster I want. You see I didn't provide username and password because I'm doing certificate authentication. They're doing posture. Here it's evaluating that I should have access to the resources based on my posture checks. And then, boom, I access my internal application, right? My internal wiki. So that's not a bad user experience, right? And that's my point. Even with VPN, you can have a frictionless experience that is also secure, okay? So that first main complaints that VPNs provide bad user experience, and many of these bullets that we discussed are basically busted. And this is what Gartner says. Well, actually, this is not Gartner. This is an article that I read, and I found it interesting. It says that although traditional VPNs have been a mainstay for decades, ZTNA is a natural evolution of VPN and offers better security, more granular control, and a better user experience. That one I like better. So it's like an evolution, not a complete replacement, and it offers many, many benefits over traditional VPNs. So why? Let's ask why we really need zero trust access. So once upon a time, we had these users in a branch trying to connect to the applications in a data center. How would you solve that connectivity problem traditionally? Side to side, right? VPN. But that had some challenges. You got this concept of implicit trust. You define the interesting traffic, network A connecting to network B. And yes, you can do controls and segmentation, but by default, you have this implicit trust, right? And you can do more advanced segmentation with SGTs, but you need to have eyes. You are missing the identity piece unless you integrate with eyes. So yeah, that was back in the day, sorry. And then you add remote users, which added some other challenges, right? That single tunnel limitation that I was talking about, which is inefficient to access some latency-sensitive applications, okay? And the user fatigue that we talked about, segmentation, you can do it, but you need to integrate with eyes, and your architecture needs to be prepared for SGT as well. And then let's add more complexity. customers start to do some lift and shift and moving workloads from on-prem to the cloud, okay? And there's that same problem, right? That you now need to manage the cloud firewall rules. Maybe you had all figured out the segmentation on-prem, and now in cloud it's a different world. It doesn't understand SGTs, well, yet. If you're interested on that, maybe you can, on the week, go and look for ICE and multi-cloud defense guys. We have this concept of common policy where we basically talk SGTs across different domains, data center, campus, and cloud. But in general, this was a challenge, right? And the inefficient routing that we talked about. So what was the solution on the industry? SSE, okay? Secure Services Edge. So if you're not that familiar with the concept, so Gartner defined SASE, Secure Access Services Edge, and then split it together. The networking part, SASE is networking and security services converging together in a cloud service. SSE is just the security part, right? So all these features that you can see there, like full proxy, DLP, CASB, firewall, DNS security, all that delivered from a single solution, that is SSE, okay? And as with many of these new concepts, the industry says that it's here to solve all your problems, okay? In reality, we all know that's not true, okay? So if you wanted to implement this, then you need to do some re-architecture, buy more stuff, of course. But you can have potential latency impact if you pick a solution that doesn't have like a efficient architecture, because you need to do on-ramp from the users to the closest POP of that service. So if you are connecting to a POP that is very far from the users and, well, maybe far from the applications, the users are gonna suffer. So that's a problem as well, because you need to go to the cloud, do all these posture checks, and then backhaul to your applications, to your data center, okay? And then we also have this use case. Remember that use case that I talked from Gartner that says on-prem users should have the same experience? So see it right there. That on-prem user, if it needs to access an application and you want to follow this ZTNA concept, it needs to go all the way to the cloud and then come back to access the application. Not very efficient, right? And that's what I was talking about, where vendors, traditional only ZTNA vendors, forgot about that first use case, and now they're paying attention to it, right? And what they do is that on-prem, you have an enforcement point now. That's UZTNA. So you have the ability to have the on-prem enforcement point, but the same policy that you had on the cloud for the remote users and the remote users that are connecting to the cloud services is synchronized with that on-prem enforcement, okay? Now let's go a little bit deeper on that use case of these on-prem users. So again, some ZTNA vendors say, like, ZTNA is here to solve all your problems, okay? I've even heard some ZTNA vendors saying, like, we have all the microsegmentation all figured out for you, okay? Buy ZTNA and you got zero trust, when ZTNA is just a small part, well, not a small, but it's part of zero trust, but it's not zero trust altogether, okay? And they say, like, if you do this ZTNA for users, accessing your applications in the data center, you don't even need microsegmentation in the data center, right? That doesn't make sense, right? Because you're solving, yes, if you implement this fully, right, and you have the identity managed all worked out and everything, like, you are solving the user to the application use case. But what about app to app? Like, everybody, all the customers I talk to, they know they need to have microsegmentation, right? Even regulations now, like, are more strict in terms of microsegmentation. Like PCI and HIPAA now demand stronger microsegmentation controls. And everybody wants to do microsegmentation. But what happens is that when you ask the customer, hey, do you know how your applications in the data center interact between each other? Nobody knows, right? So you need a solution that first do an application dependency mapping and understand how the applications work. And after that, then you're able to do the enforcement. On the campus, it's the same thing, right? You have these users to access solved, like users to application solved. But you need to say, hey, this user belongs to this group, and this group needs to have access only to these applications. Okay? Fair enough. But what about non-user devices? Like, who has only users on their networks? We have many other things in our networks, right? We have devices, printers, cameras. Depending on your vertical, you can have point of sales, many, many things in your network. So similarly to in the data center, you need to understand how your applications communicate. On the campus, you need to know what is connected to your network. And that's not an easy answer. When I talk to customers, sometimes they don't know what is connected to their network. And this can happen, right? If you don't know what is connected to your network, then how do you segment? Even if you have that on-premise control that we were talking about that allows you to do enforcement with your ZTNA policies, like if you don't know what is connected to your network, like how do you segment? That's not possible, right? And you get all this risk of lateral movement, which they might say, hey, I don't care because even if that's not segmented, my on-prem user only has access to a specific application. And I have EDR, so I know that it cannot be breached, that host from the user. Look what happened this year. It was a famous attack from Akira, where a threat actor breached the network. They tried to install ransomware on one of the devices. That device had EDR, so it blocked that ransomware, like it quarantined the file. It was not able to execute. But the attacker found out that, the network was not properly segmented. So it connected to a camera. And from the camera, of course, it doesn't have an EDR. A camera doesn't have an EDR. And from there, it executed the binary ransomware and just communicated it through SMB to that host, right? So the host wouldn't detect, like the EDR wouldn't detect it because it's not the file executing on the host itself. And that's how they were able to breach it. So that's why segmentation in the campus is very, very important, even if you have a ZTNA solution. Okay? And a bonus here, what about legacy apps? Okay? Not all apps support ZTNA solutions. Okay? There are some legacy apps or some in-house built apps that don't work well with ZTNA, right? Now we're getting to a point where most of the applications work with ZTNA, but some applications are server from client and they don't support ZTNA. And you see those vendors that we keep talking about that grew up and were born just as a ZTNA solution, now they're announcing VPN support, right? Because they realize that if you want to have or if you want to solve the full access for the users, ZTNA is not enough, okay? It's a good technology, but right now, we cannot replace altogether VPNs. So they're putting VPN features as a service on their solutions as well. And this is the concept of ZTNA that we keep talking about. So having partly started, this is what Gartner says, having partly started as a next generation replacement for VPN, connectivity for remote secure access with ZTNA, UZTNA has shifted the value to support local enforcement and branch on-premise locations. Okay? It's what we just discussed. And this is how we're doing it in Cisco. This is our Cisco Universal ZTNA. So the secure access solution that I mentioned, I'm going to go deeper in a little bit. Now we can do enforcement on-prem with our secure firewall. Okay? So in this slide, you can see that I have a roaming user connecting from somewhere around the world and the campus user, the on-prem user. And I have two applications. One, the one in blue, which I'm going to optimize. So if the user is on-prem, automatically I want to detect that it's easier or faster to go on-prem to the firewall, which is going to sync the policy from the secure access policy and allow access to just that specific application. Okay? That's the main use case. So it's going to detect how to optimize the route to the application. Another use case is if you want to control, maybe for compliance reasons or something like that, you want to say, hey, this private application, I don't want it to go through the cloud. I want it always to go through my firewall, which I control. It's a sensitive application. For whatever reason, I don't want to send it to the cloud. Okay? This should always come to my firewall, which I control and nobody else sees. Okay? And we also have this resiliency use case. I mentioned that John Rouser's session that is going to talk about how it's made in the cloud, how we provide resiliency, everything. But things happen in the cloud, right? Like how many times we have seen outages in cloud services where in the cloud nothing is supposed to fail, right? So for that use case, we can have an alternative path. Even if something extreme happens and you lose access to your SSE service or your ZTNA service, you can have an alternative path to connect to your firewall. That's very important because otherwise, that's going to be a big problem, right? Your users not being able to connect to their applications. Okay? So this is a demo on how this looks like. So this is the security cloud control, which is getting bigger and bigger now, where you can control multiple solutions from our security portfolio from there. In this demo, I have the firewall and secure access, but you also have Hypershield now, secure workload, or also known as Tetration, from this same security cloud control. Okay? Here, you can see that like I was saying, I'm managing the firewall and the secure access solution from here. If I go to the firewall, you get to see that if you can manage the firewalls directly from here, like a cloud-delivered FMC, or just integrate your on-prem FMC to this service. Okay? So even if you still manage it from on-prem, you integrate it with this security cloud control. And on secure access, you can see that directly FTDs are listed there as a connection, as a backhaul to your applications. Okay? So here I have two applications. One is a file share app, right, which is non-web, and a web application, right, just a wiki website. And I define them here. Okay? I have the security profiles, the IPS profiles, and now what I'm going to do is to assign these resources to my firewall. Okay? So I'm going to say, for that use case, like I want these applications to always come to the firewall. Don't optimize it for whatever reason, compliance reason or whatever. I want it to come always through the firewall. Okay? So I define it here. The two solutions working together. I just deployed this change to the firewall, which is on premises. I need to push that policy. Firewall is going to receive it, of course. And once that happens, once it completes, now let's take a look at the user experience. Okay? So this is the universal ZTNA user experience. They open the secure client. Notice that the VPN is not connected, but the zero trust module is always active. But the user doesn't have to do anything. And it goes and access the non-web application, right? That file, that shared drive, is going to ask for credentials, right? That's not the secure access credentials. Those are the network credentials. And there you go. We access the drive. And now I'm going to open the wiki, the internal wiki, and there you go. I'm accessing it. And from there, there's a link. I'm going to click on it. And it didn't open. Let's see why. So for the admin experience, here you can see in the logs, unified logs, that this user is accessing these applications, and they're going through the firewall, right? You can see that they are going through the firewall, not through the cloud. And you can even see that I have an intrusion event. And that's why I was not able to access that other link. So you can see that there was an intrusion event. So it's protecting me in the same way that I would be protected if that user was connecting remotely from anywhere. Okay? So what really makes UZTNA possible is having this identity everywhere. Okay? And I was talking about this ICE concept of common policy that you're going to hear a lot during the week. That's what really makes UZTNA possible. Okay? So this is what we do with ICE. The challenge is that you don't know what's connected on your network. With ICE, you can get to know what is connected to your network, and after that, you can classify them, right? Once you have this classified, you're able to do some segmentation efficiently. Without having this, and notice that there are some things that don't have a user behind them. Okay? So that's why this is very important. So with ICE, to do segmentation in the campus, what we do is that we get many attribute sources, okay, in order to understand what is connected to your network. You cannot segment, you cannot protect what you don't see, you cannot segment what you don't see, okay? So after you get all these different sources, you do some profile generation. You can do some profiles that are already embedded in the solution in ICE. Now we are doing some AI proposed, where you connect ICE to a cloud service, and there you're gonna see like updates, and then depending on the behavior of these devices that are connected to your network, this cloud service might say, hey, these are the switch 2 that were just announced that are connected to your network, right? So it's, of course, more dynamic. Or even you can get some insights from ICE that says, hey, I don't know what these devices are, but I know they behave the same way, okay? So I know that this group of things are the same. I don't know what they are, but they're in a group. So now you as an admin, you go there and you're like, oh yeah, these are the devices that someone built in-house. Now I know, and I can apply a segmentation rule to it. Okay? Once you have that, we have this concept of certainty factor profiles, where if you're not completely certain that this device follows that group, you can configure the percentage of certainty. So you can say like, hey, if I'm 80% sure that this device is a webcam, put it in this group. If you don't get to 80%, then put it in a different group, okay? And that goes together with this multi-factor profile rules, where you get different sources. And once you have that, you get your authorization rules. Okay? So one thing is the authentication, the other part is the profiling, and once you have that, you say, okay, these things that are already classified should have access to these resources only. Okay? Only then, until you have that, you have true segmentation in the campus. So how this works together with ZTNA, because some people say, hey, with a ZTNA, you don't need a NAC anymore. Maybe a basic NAC or a traditional NAC. But again, we already talked about this. If you don't have like this concept of understanding the non-user things in your network, you cannot do proper segmentation, even if you have a ZTNA solution that solves the user to applications problem. Okay? So take a look at this. You can integrate secure access with ICE or Catalyst Center, and you get all these tags, or these security group tags on secure access for your policies. And then, since you have the enforcement point on-prem, you can build your policies and say, hey, these tags of the cameras or the point of sales, they can only access whatever applications you define. So this is where the puzzle starts working all together, right? This requires ZTNA, yes. Mm-hmm. Correct. So what are the Cisco ZTNA options? We had the Duo Network Gateway, DNG. This came from the Duo acquisition, and since then, they had this concept of ZTNA, but they only supported a small set of protocols, like web applications. Then they supported SSH and RDP, right? And some ZTNA vendors started with that path, right? And they were saying, hey, you can replace a VPN, and they only supported a small set of protocols, okay? And for this one, the good thing is that it integrated very well with all the security or the Duo hot sauce, right? Like risk-based authentication, that friendly user experience on MFA from Duo. So many customers liked it. But they still needed to install a VM, which was the Duo Network Gateway, that was like this layer 7 reverse proxy to provide access to those applications. Then in firewall, secure firewall since 7.4, we introduced this concept of ZTA as well. Okay? So remember that we never moved the web VPN to FTD. That stayed in ASA, and it was eventually killed. In Secure Firewall 7.4, we reintroduced this concept, right? Well, they rebuilt the feature. And honestly, if you ask me, this basically replaces the VM need for DNG. So it's for customers like, hey, yeah, you like the Duo, you're a Duo customer, or you like the way it works for the users. So don't worry about installing a VM for this. If you have a firewall, do it here, and the firewall is going to integrate with Duo and provide access to your applications. Okay? But now we have the secure access solution, which is our full SSE solution. So ZTNA is just one of the features within SSE. Okay? So this is what we're focusing on, secure access. And as Gartner defines it, it's like many different security controls delivered from the same solution, right? Well integrated. So you might say that, yeah, we are new in the SSE space. The reality is not, because all these features have been on Cisco for a long time, right? Umbrella, Duo, CASB, VPN. It integrates with Thousand Eyes as well for digital experience monitoring and be able to tell from the users if the experience, the end user experience, is not so well, right? So Thousand Eyes is very good on that, and it integrates with secure access. So you as an admin, if a user is reporting a problem, you can go and say, hey, yeah, it's a problem on that user's laptop that doesn't have a strong Wi-Fi. Or you can say, hey, it's probably a problem with that user in that region because that ISP is having problems. Or it's a problem with my application and I need to go figure out. But Thousand Eyes tells you that, and it's integrated in the solution. Okay? And from the user experience, here is what you will see. We didn't want to implement yet another agent. So what we did is that in this secure client, we added this new module, the Zero Trust Access module. Okay? And again, it's always active. Okay? So for the user, it's transparent. They don't need to worry about connecting or forgetting about connecting because they're accessing a new application. So they enroll. Once they enroll, it's always active. It's constantly checking the posture. And whatever you define on your policy that needs to go through that module, it's always going to be enforced in there. Okay? So it's transparent user experience. It has very cool security features like TPM integration. Again, if you want to go deeper into how this works behind the scenes and these new protocols, Quick and Mask, that are used in our solution, right, which are very, very efficient protocols and provide a better user experience, go to Vinny Parla's session, which I put as a reference on that slide at the beginning. That's a very, very good session if you want to understand the nitty-gritty on these protocols. Okay? So look at this flexible journey to ZTNA. Okay? So you have traditional VPNs. If you want to move to ZTNA, then what you can do, which is very easy, is that on that secure access concept that we have, besides ZTNA and besides proxy and besides DNS security, we also have VPN as a service. So all your users that are connecting to your on-premises hardware, to your VPN concentrators, you can simply move them up to the cloud. Same experience, it's the same VPN that you are used to. And then once you have it in there, you can, on your own rhythm, start moving the applications, right? You can start moving your applications to this ZTNA concept. And the applications that have gaps and are not able to work in a ZTNA world, then they can simply go through the VPN path, right? So it's seamless transition, okay? So it's just like lift and shift to your VPN as a service. And then once you have done that, you're going to move to something like this. Like this, remember the video that I showed where I had to pick which headend I was connecting to? This is what we have now in Cisco, the after one. So you just get to choose if you want to connect with TLS or with IPsec, but you connect to the closest one. Okay? So that's and this is for VPN. So this previous approach that I was showing, like move your VPN to the cloud and then from there go on your own rhythm, moving applications to ZTNA, that is what Cisco is doing at large scale. Okay? So they moved us, imagine all Cisco employees, they moved us to secure access VPN, and now some of the applications are accessible through ZTNA. There are very few applications that still need to go through VPN, but still, we need them. Okay? If you are interested into this journey that Cisco did, we also have these sessions that BRK COC, that is Cisco on Cisco. So they explain what they did on this journey, right? From IT perspective, inside IT perspective. So I say like, we eat our own dog food. On that session, I believe they say that we don't drink our own dog food, we drink our own champagne, right? So it's very interesting if you go to that session because it's a practical use case, how what I'm saying here was applied for a large company as Cisco. Okay? And now I also wanted to show you this demo on secure access and Chrome Enterprise browser integration. So let's take a look.
Aviation, one of the most data-driven industries in the world. It's an industry that relies on security, not only to protect information, but entire operations.
This industry is highly digital. You need to be accessing applications seamlessly, but most importantly, securely.
For decades, Wipro has been securing some of the world's largest airlines and airports.
When you look at aviation, external threat exposure is very, very high.
And that's down to the amount of people required to make an airline work, from flight crews to baggage handlers, third-party contractors to maintenance teams. All these people need access to hundreds of applications every day.
How do you manage security across different personas with a complete visibility?
That's the question Wipro and Cisco came together to answer for one of the world's largest airlines based in the Middle East.
When we started talking to the customer, because of diverse tools which are not speaking with each other, Cisco's secure access came into play to secure this entire process.
With Cisco Secure Access, one of the world's major airlines is now benefiting from a cloud-delivered security service edge solution, giving users an exceptional experience from any device grounded in zero trust.
It provides an unified view of the security from edge to cloud. To their employees, it's a single password, secure access.
And in combination with Chrome Enterprise Premium, any device, any user, anywhere is set up in minutes with seamless and secure access to applications and critical data.
Chrome Enterprise Premium takes care of this unmanaged devices. When they access an application, somebody can't copy your keystrokes. You can't copy a screen. They are accessing securely. Both the solutions put together, Chrome Enterprise and the Secure Access, gives a peace of mind that any user from anywhere accessing my application is secure.
With Cisco Secure Access and Chrome Enterprise Premium, this airline now has more transparent security controls, authentication protocols, and one of the most seamless and secure data environments in the industry. A world-class airline in a world changing fast. Now more secure than ever with Cisco, Wipro, and Chrome Enterprise.
So that's a very nice integration. This is how it works. Okay? So you have this enterprise browser, that concept that is growing with companies, right? And from there, you can solve that trust for unmanaged devices. And you have some advanced features, like when they access an application, like it was mentioned on the video, like you cannot do copy and paste, like you cannot record the screen, anything like that, right? And you can integrate with secure access and say something like, if you are connecting from a regular browser, you won't have access to the application. But if you have this enterprise browser and I'm solving that trust part, then you get to access these applications. Okay? So this is a great use case, if you think about it, for VDI migrations, right? So that's one of the use cases for VDIs. With this, like it's going to be way easier, and you provide better security and better granularity than with a traditional VDI. Okay? So these are the key takeaways of the session. Okay? So VPNs aren't dead, but they're not longer enough. And you can see many things happening with these modern solutions, like that integration with enterprise browser that I just mentioned. You can also see some demos and sessions on the week for AI access, which is now integrated on secure access, where you get to not only understand what AI applications your users are using, like if they're doing ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot. First, secure access can give you that visibility of what they're doing, but you can go one step further and understand the prompts that they are using, right? So it's like a modern CASB or a modern DLP, if you will, where you can understand if they're sending sensitive application. Besides a traditional DLP, where you just do a pattern match, you can actually understand the prompts, and if they're doing something that they shouldn't, you can get an alert and take action. So ZTNA advances the model, but doesn't solve everything, right? It gives this identity-based access and reduced attack surface, but again, we have non-user-based devices, legacy applications. So if you really want to solve the problem completely, you need to go to UZTNA and, of course, integrate with a modern segmentation solution like TrustSec for the campus. Okay? So again, this is what I'm mentioning here, right? UZTNA takes it further, but it isn't a silver bullet, and that's why you need a combination of solutions. And last one, but not least, zero trust isn't a product, it's a strategy. So don't buy in that marketing where they say, hey, this ZTNA solution is what gives you zero trust. No way, zero trust is a full strategy. ZTNA can get you closer to zero trust, but it's not everything. Okay. So we still have time for a Slido, but I need to change to my laptop. I have a book if you stay for the winner. So let me just do this real quick, okay? I'm going to move to the laptop. Which protocol is used by secure access for client-based zero trust network access? TLS, IPsec, MASC, or SSH? TLS, MASC. It was a winner. So for ZTNA, we use MASC and QUIC. Again, go to Vinny Parla's session, and you will see about these new modern protocols. Michael Adams, you're ahead. Which of the following is a core advantage of UZTNA over traditional ZTNA? It eliminates the need for identity-based control. It provides native support for IPv6. It enables on-prem access for unmanaged and non-user-based devices. It replaces the need for on-prem segmentation solutions like Cisco ICE. Awesome. You guys were paying attention. Michael Adams, still ahead. Which feature is a key characteristic of ZTNA, but not typically found in VPNs? Requires VPN software, client software, access to full network or network segment. Client can connect to different headends per application. One-to-one client to headend relationship. Client can connect to different headends per application. That's right. What is a significant challenge faced in the use case of a local user accessing an application within the same location in a zero trust network access environment? Lack of user authentication, limited bandwidth availability, increased risk of unauthorized access, suboptimal routing, and additional latency. Michael Adams. Which connectivity options are available in secure access for accessing private applications? Backhaul VPN or resource connectors, backhaul VPN only, NAT, or RDP? Yeah. Cool. Oh, Michael. You dropped. Let's see, this is, everybody should know this one. Let's see. Who is a legendary Costa Rican goalkeeper known for starring in multiple World Cups and playing for clubs like Real Madrid? Chuck Robbins, Reversed, Shamir Edelman, Keylor Navas, or Diffie Hellman? RSA. Everyone has that one correct, so no worries. Michael Adams, you got it. Michael, where are you? Oh, back there. So last but not least, remember to fill your evaluations, especially this one, to see if I can make it next year. And thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.